where actually I don't know why. I'm excited to see you, and I love talking about the box office. We don't have any money invested, even though things aren't going well. They're not going horrible, but they're not going quite as good as we would like. So yes, hello and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where alas, this August we are not getting a Guardians of the Galaxy, a Suicide Squad, or even a Hobbs and Shaw. We're not even getting it. Those were August sensations. But we're also, speaking of horror sensations, we're not getting a Sinners or a Get Out either. Yes, despite Weapons being an incredible experience in theaters, and we told everybody who saw it opening weekend said, what a theatrical experience! But shockingly, well, I guess not too shockingly post-pandemic, but a lot of other people said, I'm fine waiting. They're like, I'll wait for digital, or better yet, HBO Max. No extra cost, baby. No extra cost. Why do you think people aren't going to see Weapons in theaters? My big theory is star power. What else could it be? We'll talk about Weapons a little bit later on in this video. But as a result, for the second time this year, the overall domestic box office dipped below $100 million for the weekend. And it's not looking much better for the rest of the summer, as Hollywood seems to have taken a flyer. They're like, whoo, peace out, everybody. See you after Labor Day. And you're like, what? You're supposed to be entertaining us during these last few fun weeks of summer. Although Hollywood has long believed that for the last few weeks of summer, you want to be outside while you can before work and school start in earnest. Although also, these days, a lot of school is already started. And so Hollywood feels you're not going to go to the movie. So why doesn't Hollywood take off some time themselves? But why doesn't anyone take advantage of the Labor Day weekend for a movie release? We've talked about this before. It frustrates me to no end because Shang-Chi did fantastic there. So did Equalizer 3, even more recently. Still, nobody wants this date. It drives me nuts. People have proven that they will go to the movies over Labor Day weekend. Instead, the next big-ish movie, I told you October is when things were going to get exciting again. But some of you are like, what about The Conjuring 3, Grace? Come on. Well, that's true. That is also from Warner Brothers, the studio that just don't quit in 2025. Another horror film from them, by the way. And that is looking to open at 35 to 40 million, but the weekend after Labor Day, right? Although I can understand, I don't think I'd open a horror movie for Labor Day weekend because you're still like in summer mode. The Equalizer 3 took place in Italy. Oh, it was wonderful. But yeah, I think that's actually a very good opening weekend for that franchise, which has historically done quite well in the fall corridor. In fact, that would be the best opening for the franchise since before the pandemic. So again, Warner Brothers, what a roll, baby. But let's focus on this weekend, and Marvel and DC still going at it. Speaking of Superman, R.I.P. to Terrence Stamp, who has just passed away, and of course originated the role of General Zod in 1978 Superman. Now, of course, he went on to play, and had played even before then, many iconic roles. Really celebrated classical actor. But of course, he is known to many as General Zod, one of Superman's greatest foes in the first two Superman movies. So the current Superman film just hit digital, and many Snyderverse faithful all week long, because this was announced at the beginning of the week, and they were like, ho, 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 failure city, baby, here's more evidence that they went from a 45-day theatrical window, already pretty short, to a mere 35-day window. Was this a desperate play for more cash? Any cash? Just give us some money, please. James Gunn insists, well, he just says whatever he wants. He insists that the film's digital release date was moved up because it's homework for Peacemaker Season 2. Homework already? But having seen episodes 1 through 5 of Peacemaker, my review is up right now, and I enjoyed it. But I have to tell you, from a DC Universe perspective, nothing really big is going to happen until 6 through 8, which I haven't seen, and apparently are where the big things happen. We'll see. But Superman, even with its original digital release date at the end of the month, would have been out by that time. So here's what I think is really going on. And be sure to share your own theories down below. In terms of Peacemaker, Season 1 didn't exactly set the world on fire. Again, despite what James Gunn tries to say. And can Gunn really, you know what? He doesn't want to change his name to None because he doesn't want to have another show not make the Nielsen charts. Creature Commandos never charted. At least Matt Reeves' The Penguin managed to chart at the very end and has won a slew of awards. And James Gunn, I really like Superman, but beyond fan awards, I don't see him winning a lot of awards. Maybe someday. I think he has it in him. He has some pretty darn good real-world commentary in Superman and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And when we were talking about Brainiac on the live stream on Thursday, we were like, maybe he's going to talk about AI, which I think he would do a really good job with. But anyway, Superman, yes, excellent movie. It got me to watch Peacemaker Season 2. So imagine how powerful this is. So while you don't need to watch Superman to enjoy Peacemaker Season 2, perhaps Gunn is hoping that more people will want to watch Peacemaker Season 2 if they've seen Superman. And Peacemaker does debut this Thursday. So I think you don't have to watch Superman to be prepared for Peacemaker, but he's sure hoping maybe it'll up the numbers. As for Zazie, well, Zazie's no mystery. Zazie likes money. And Zazie ain't above copying someone else's homework either. Case in point, he wanted someone from Marvel to run DC for him, and he got someone. Wasn't his first draft choice, but it was still somebody pretty freaking high up. So why should Universal have all the fun with digital, right? Wicked made $70 million on digital in its first week. Beating out the previous record holder for Universal, which was Super Mario Brothers, which made $44 million in just a week on digital. And I'm sure Jurassic World Rebirth is making a pretty penny as well. And look, here's Superman, currently number 1 on digital, with Jurassic World Rebirth right behind it. Now, Zazie's own The Conjuring 3 is the next biggish movie, and that's in 3 weeks, aka 2 weekends. And a bunch of other movies are rushing to digital for the end of the summer as well. I bet you The Naked Gun, while not yet dated, will also be on digital before Labor Day. Maybe not, but I think that would be foolish if it wasn't. And Superman just got out ahead of all of them. And just like with Universal's digital releases, what do you know? It ain't hurting the theatrical. In fact, Superman fell just 34% in its 6th weekend. That's its best hold to date, and it just went to digital. Universal, really a trendsetter. Disney's at the other end of this. Disney, I think Disney's strategy seems to work pretty well too. I mean, they did get Lilo and Stitch to $1 billion with like their 60-day theatrical window. But I mean, like Superman, it's doing well, but it's not going to get to $1 billion. I think this was the right play. And Superman's still in the middle of the top 10. It's kissing. Hello, 600 million. That's what it's doing. Interestingly, by the way, I find this fascinating. Superman is weak overseas and strong domestically, while F1 the movie is weak domestically and strong overseas. Basically tied at the worldwide box office as a result. By the way, F1, also a Warner Brothers, an Apple Warner Brothers movie. Who knows what the split is on that in terms of the moolah, but still goes in for Warner Brothers with the numbers on the tracking. But yeah, Superman, it's still not going to catch Man of Steel. And again, we didn't even adjust it for inflation. So that was pretty nice of us. Although Hollywood never adjusts for inflation, because you'd never beat those Great Depression movies. It would never happen. Gone with the Wind made like $1 cajillion during that time period, because there was nothing else to do. All right, and also that was pre-everything, pre-TV, pre-video games. And also, Superman isn't going to come anywhere near the Batman, right? And you can make all the excuses you want. Oh, that was the heyday of the superhero genre. Oh, it was coming after the Nolan movies. I don't care. It's not great, because it would be, those are the excuses if it only matched Man of Steel. Because again, as I said, if it's going to be the same as Man of Steel, what do we go through all of this for? To rebuild? Maybe. But I mean, what's going on here? Is it DC the brand? Is it Superman the character? Is it comic book fatigue overall? Might be all three. But again, say it with me. At least it did better than all the Marvel movies this year. That's what James Gunn's favorite tune is. So much drama. Oh, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of the juicy details. And hey, as long as you're clicking on stuff down there, why not hit that like button too? Riddle me this. Why, with its lackluster box office, would Superman say, you know what I need to do? make more Superman with the Superman saga that he just announced this week to promote Peacemaker? Maybe, I don't know. But I mean, like, why wouldn't you do World's Finest, which is what we all want now? We wanted Brainiac before. I mean, we might want him again, but right now we all want World's Finest. We'd even take a Justice Gang or Justice League movie. But what's with the Superman saga, right? Did his time with the MCU sell him on trilogies, right, as a structural format to building cinematic universes? And, to be fair, I do think trilogies for solo characters are important to building a cinematic universe. But part of the building blocks is that you alternate with team films. They didn't do the whole trilogies and then do the Avengers movies. They were sprinkled in between. So where are the team movies, James Gunn, right? And in fact, even Captain America's third solo film was basically an Avengers movie. And nobody complained. It was fantastic. Even Thor and Spider-Man have benefited from assists from big name characters outside of their lanes. And Superman was a very crowded movie, but not with any A-listers. But maybe, just maybe, we're all right that James Gunn does indeed have a Batman problem, and that's that Matt Reeves won't share his toys. What? Despite working for James Gunn? James Gunn owns all the toys. It continues to confound me that Zazie and Gunn have no say over what happens with Reeves. That must be one heck of a contract he signed. And deep down, even though Gunn won't publicly admit it, he knows that it would be ridiculous to have two Batmans at the same time for the general public. Sure, us comic book fans could follow it, but even then we would be divided as to who we preferred. You gotta stop being divided, DC. It's a real mess for you. You just can't keep doing that. We all have to get behind the same Batman. And it's Battinson! And sadly, though, Superman's box office was not strong enough to convince Matt Reeves to go all in on the Gunverse. He's like, sorry, buddy. My brother from another comic book fan, they're like very similar. You might not stick around, and I want to keep Batman going. I'd be like, Matt, you don't know how your second movie's going to do. Be careful. Maybe you might want to be a little fantastical with your villains. So instead, it looks like they're just going to make their separate trilogies, or at least sequels, and then maybe we get a World's Finest or a Justice League movie after that, like in 2030. Come on, man. This is ridiculous. But I guess we want Gunn and company to be careful, because once you've messed up your cinematic universe, it can be almost impossible to dig your way out. Just ask Zack Snyder, Kathleen Kennedy, and maybe even Mr. Kevin Feige. Fantastic Four continues to drop, man. This thing is not turning around. Forget turning around the MCU, it can't even turn itself around. Another 44% in its fourth weekend, and it's only at about 450 worldwide. Forget matching Superman's 600 million, and even Superman's not doing fantastic. Fantastic Four, we'll have to come up with a new name for them. What do you think would be a good F to go with this box office? They're just hoping to this point to get to 500 million. They're like, come on, baby. And as I said last Sunday, that puts them in Ant-Man territory, a territory that nobody wants to be in. Especially because this is supposed to be Marvel's first family. Although we told you that casuals do not care about Marvel's first family. I don't even think a lot of comic book fans care about Marvel's first family. I'm telling you, man, Fantastic Four and Superman fans are really skewing things on social media. I think you guys originally were right, or at least these days. You can't just blindly follow social media. Talk to some comic book fans, right? A lot of them. Like, Fantastic Four and Superman might be the first characters for both their respective brands, but they just aren't as popular as some of the other ones, right? Especially with casuals. Most of us thought it was super weird that Feige was going with Fantastic Four over X-Men when he got his toys back from Fox. We were like, X-Men are right there. Why would you go with Fantastic Four? Although Fantastic Four fans were like, it's finally going to get it right. They're finally going to get their due. Do you think they got their due? I even think the movie's only medium. But X-Men 97, meanwhile, huge hit. Well, actually, it never got into the Nielsen charts either, but fans really loved it. I think that was great, although I am worried that actually never got into Nielsen, come to think of it. And apparently Feige had very little to do with that show. And now we're all nervous about how Feige could potentially maybe mess up the X-Men. Remember when everyone was so happy when Feige got all the Fox characters back? That just goes to show how much damage has been done to Marvel over the last few years, not just with casuals, but with fans as well. People no longer just have a blind trust in him. Back to only trust in Nolan, I guess, except with female characters. I had to do it. All right. Now, maybe Feige went with Fantastic Four to set up Doom, right? But he didn't set up boom! So what was the point of this? I think Kevin Feige might just be one of you. He's a big Fantastic Four fan. And as for Gunn, Batman was already taken, so he got stuck with Superman. All right, do you think an Avengers Endgame or even an Infinity War level Marvel movie can come out of nowhere, right? With no buildup, no big movies that come out to lead up to the film, right? Like, where are the breadcrumbs to the mega event? Ironically, if the rumors are true, Avengers Doomsday might benefit the most from Loki and Deadpool and Wolverine. Although Deadpool and Wolverine kind of came out of nowhere. And it built off of Loki, though, and had X-Men characters coming back. So, maybe Feige is right he seems, I think that's his safety net. He does seem to be copying Deadpool and Wolverine a little bit. And as a massive fan of that movie, I would not totally mind. Okay, so back to Weapons Weekend 2. Not the cinematic sensation it was looking like, but it's still making lots of money for Warner Brothers. Because remember, it cost just $38 million to make this movie, and they barely advertised it. Although maybe with the second weekend, they should have maybe advertised it a little bit more. Uh-oh. Zach Krieger, it turns out, isn't Jordan Peele just yet. And he's not even early M. Night Shyamalan. And maybe I wouldn't be so quick to greenlight a prequel after all, right? Like, let's see how it does on digital. Do I want to ruin the image of this film and Krieger's career just out of the gate as I'm building him as an asset for my studio? Again, if it's not going to just print money. I mean, it's making a lot of money, but I wouldn't say it's in the printing money category just yet. I also think this hurts its Oscar chances quite a bit because, again, since it's not a sensation, again, if I were Warner Brothers, I'd probably just be content to make the money that I am making instead of risking splitting the horror vote with awards voters with Sinners, right? Like, what is the point of jeopardizing Sinners getting those nominations when, again, I can't even point to a sensation? I mean, it's a good horror movie that's making money. But again, I'm sure some of you are like, it is a sensation. Do you really still think that? Also, perhaps the film needed a bit more star power. Sorry, Josh Brolin and Julia Garner. Perhaps on Krieger's next film, you give him a couple extra $1 million. Maybe instead of 38, you give him 45. He even gave back some of his own money again for this film, which was wonderful. But, he needed, I think, one. He doesn't have to replace both of them. And by the way, I would have kept Julia Garner. She's wonderful in the film. Her star is on the rise. Josh Brolin, he's fine in the movie, but again, he's just fine. He didn't, he wasn't amazing. Maybe they could have gotten a bigger name. Not Pedro Pascal. I think he would have hurt the movie because he's overexposed. But somebody else. As for sequels, overall, ones that are in theaters right now, not doing so hot. Freakier Friday was supposed to be the big hit of the month, but Weapons drank its milkshake. Now this sequel is 6% behind the 2003 original movie, and we're not accounting for inflation here either, right? And sequels are supposed to build on the originals. Whew. Although speaking of digital, Freakier Friday should probably do pretty well there, and also maybe on Disney+. Although, I gotta say, making sequels to these fan favorites is not going so great. We were so happy when they said they were gonna make more Hocus Pocus and Enchanted and Freaky Friday. That horrible Home Alone bastardization. It's not going well. But, the Alien Predator stuff's going great, and Apes. All right, so as for this weekend's new sequel, looks like Universal is going to be rushing another movie to digital with that 17-day window they have for clunkers with Nobody 2. I mean, at least it did a tiny bit better opening-wise than the first film, but this is not great. It was super cheap to make, even cheaper than Weapons, although unlike Weapons, you can tell that it cost almost no money to make. The audience scores, at least, are pretty good, so Nobody 2 should probably make money down the line on digital streaming and the ancillary market, hotels and airplanes. But I think 87 North, that's Chad Stahelski and David Leitch's production company, they're churning out way too many mediocre, cheap movies that are exactly the same. Ooh, we're in a living room. No, you're not. That's just a set for stunts that you've dressed up to kind of barely look like a living room. Oh, this is an actor. No, it's not. It's a stunt person that can't act. I mean, it's just so, you can just so see the pieces and how they're put together at this point. And I think Love Hurts was particularly bad. If that hadn't just come out and had been the last film from this group, and I hadn't been so badly burned on it, maybe I'd have seen Nobody 2 in theaters. How about you? As for the rest of the top 10, our suspicions were correct here as well. The Bad Guys 2 and Naked Gun are streaming movies at heart. It's not too surprising with The Bad Guys 2. Wonderful movie, but the first one wasn't a huge hit in theaters. So They knew that it was going to do the bulk of its business down the line. But it's a real shame that for all the hype, and again, being a fun theatrical experience, people just don't want to see The Naked Gun in theaters. What's going on with comedy? Let's take a moment to look at comedy, right? What was the last big raunchy comedy hit in theaters? Was it really just The Hangover, which was, a minute ago? It's been a while. But Hollywood isn't giving up. They're just starting to make a new Meet the Parents. And also, literally at the end of last week, they just greenlit a new scary movie, which is pretty exciting. Although, interestingly, Happy Gilmore 2, an adult raunchy comedy, was just a huge hit over on Netflix. And speaking of movies going to digital and still doing well in theaters, despite being a huge hit on digital, Jurassic World Rebirth, still doing very well in theaters as well. Just crossed 800 million. It's well into the 800 million range at this point. How fast can Uni make another Dino movie? We should start seeing some headlines maybe after the holiday weekend. We'll see if Universal sticks with the same creatives in front of and behind the camera. What's your vote? Also, so happy for Scarlett Johansson, who has so much trouble, right? She's good for her. She's a fighter. I love ScarJo. She has willed herself to become the highest grossing actress of all time. And unlike her MCU co-stars, has found box office life after Marvel. Then, on streaming, starting with Nielsen per usual, this time for mid-July, look at the dominance of Untamed. Woo! No wonder it got such a quick season 2 renewal. A lot of you said it was such a pretty show. And by the way, it does feature both former Marvel and Jurassic actors, interestingly enough. We're also starting to see the power of K-Pop Demon Hunters, even domestically. Netflix's charts are global, Nielsen's are domestic. But wow, we're starting to see it rise, number 3 here on the overall chart. And this was again a month ago. And the Bosch spinoff, Ballard, continues to finally give Maggie Q her breakout hit 20 years into her Hollywood career. See, you just never know. But it was pretty quiet in streaming in this time frame overall, with nothing too exciting happening on the originals chart or the movies chart besides K-pop. On that note, let's head over to Netflix's charts where, yes, I missed K-pop breaking into the top 10 all-time chart last week because I was looking at the bottom of the chart. I thought it would be like 7 or 8. I didn't expect it to have jumped already to 4. And this week, oh my gosh, it's already at 2. And this thing ain't slowing down. I expect it to become the most watched movie of all time on Netflix in just about 2 weeks. Woo! That's incredible. And I think it's due to immense repeat viewing. How many times have you watched K-Pop Demon Hunters? Would K-Pop Demon Hunters have been a Frozen in theaters, right? Or would it have been more of an Encanto, which only did, that was a pandemic film to a degree, but that only did okay in theaters and didn't really become a sensation until it hit Disney Plus a month later. Streaming also turned Moana into a mega hit. However, Moana 2 would then go on to be a theatrical release. Bob Iger was said, put it in theaters, and it made $1 billion. But would Netflix ever do a true theatrical release? Let's see what happens with Greta Gerwig's Narnia, where they're starting to really experiment with that format. Next goal for K-Pop Demon Hunters, though, right now, getting Oscar nominations for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song. How can Netflix keep the film in front of Hollywood for the next several months? They got a long road ahead of them. Their next step, though, is their sing-along showings in theaters later this month for 2 days only, and tickets are selling. As for other Netflix content, Sophia Carson continues to be one of Netflix's biggest stars, with her new movie jumping to number 1 on its first full week on the streamer, putting her in league with K-pop and Adam Sandler. And it's always nice to see some Megamind love, right? But let's just hope that maybe that will inspire them to make more Megamind that's true Megamind, and not that horrific sequel that they tried to pass off. Oh. I think it's only going to work if you get the original voice cast. And I don't know if they'd come back. And if they did, it would be awfully expensive. I still would like it. And boy, this John Cena movie from 2023 is doing pretty darn well on Netflix. Is John Cena, is he having a moment thanks to Heads of State, which has been a huge hit over on Prime Video? Idris Elba, I want you to have a moment too. But John Cena seems to be perfectly poised. Not only is this older film doing well, but of course, Peacemaker Season 2 is about to hit. Heads of State might help him. The Superman Heads of State 1-2 punch might really help Peacemaker. And talk about Netflix superstars, even though fans aren't as happy with season 2, having it split into 2 parts, less focus on Wednesday and more on supporting characters, you still all watched it. 50 million views out of the gate. That's incredible. And season 1 was pulled up to be right behind it. That's amazing. Season 3, already greenlit, right? And maybe the new season will stick the landing with part 2, which will feature Lady Gaga. It would seem that even when they mess up their new seasons and take forever to deliver them, Netflix's biggest shows just can't be killed. They're still huge juggernaut hits, which is a good sign for Stranger Things 5. Then on digital, with Apple's charts, there's Superman at number 1, just as we said, with Jurassic World Rebirth right behind it. And then Disney Marvel's Thunderbolts continues to do well. That's great for Doomsday, where, of course, this new team will be featured. It's also great to see Ballerina finally finding an audience, especially with rumors circulating that Ana de Armas might be joining the MCU. Who would she play? I haven't heard anything, but I know a couple of you think she might be a good Mystique, and after seeing Ballerina, I think she would. However, that film's very low box office made me a little bit nervous about bringing her into the MCU. We'll see. I mean, her romance, now she has a romance with Tom Cruise, and that's never worked out well for anyone, particularly actresses. So, we'll see. And look, there's a Pedro Pascal double feature. Maybe Fantastic Four will come out soon and you can make it a triple feature. Bundles also continue to do extremely well for Apple. This Lord of the Rings extended editions bundle, just $15. Do you ever find yourself making an impulse purchase on these very aggressively priced bundles? I even picked one up the other day. I got the Warner Brothers Classics collection for just $10. I've seen all these movies, but I haven't seen Casablanca in a really long time. And I've been meaning to rewatch it. So I was like, oh, that's a good thing. And then also I got to do my research for Wicked for Good and rewatch Wizard of Oz. So that was yet another reason to pick it up. So as I said, the rest of the summer's looking pretty bleak theatrically. This weekend, we'll see if North American audiences are interested in China's animated juggernaut, Neza 2. 2.5 hours long. That animated movie, but also coming out in IMAX. I'll be seeing it early this week, and I do plan to review it. While some quirky, smaller movies are trying to take advantage of this lull, Honey Don't, Eden, and Splitsville. On digital on Tuesday, again, Superman was smart to get out ahead of these. We've got Mission Impossible, Elio, and The Bad Guys 2. Elio just can't catch a break, as The Bad Guys 2 is coming out directly opposite. All 3 are great movies, though. You can't go wrong there. Then with streaming movies, Prime Video has The Map That Leads to You on Wednesday. That's a Lasse Hallström movie. Whew, he needs to get paid, apparently. While on Friday, Netflix has the documentary about Jussie Smollett, and Hulu has Samara Weaving's latest, Eenie Meenie. Why hasn't her career worked out? She's so great. Then with shows on Thursday, Peacemaker Season 2 kicks off. Can it trend? Can it make a big... It's pretty slow right now. I bet it can trend. I think even the first Peacemaker trended a little bit, even though it never charted. But, you know, all the big moments are apparently towards the end of the season. But hey, if things are going to get nuts, you might as well jump on now so that you don't miss out. Then on Friday, Netflix debuts Long Story Short from the BoJack Horseman team, and Apple starts Season 3 of Invasion, which now finds itself going up against Alien Earth, which also just started. I'm continuing to break down Alien Earth, and I'll be breaking down episode 1 at the very least of Peacemaker. And Amazon, they're still doing that James Bond reality competition. That's nuts. That's nuts. Apparently Brian Cox, who hosts that, needs to get paid as well. And that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what movie do you think this year should have moved to the Labor Day weekend release date? Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.